This MCN video has been produced in partnership with Bikesure Insurance. Welcome to MCN and the Yamaha MT-07. Now this is one of the most affordable, practical and popular middleweights money can buy. And it's also an MCN multi-award winner. Over 160,000 MT-07s have been built since it was launched in 2014. But it's getting on a little bit now. I remember first riding this bike at the end of 2013 at its world launch. But it's still young at heart. It's still really good fun for old codgers like me. It kind of reminds me of like the spiritual successor to the Yamaha RD 350 LC. But it's also a really great bike for new riders. You know, it's affordable, it's easy to ride, and you can restrict it for an A2 license as well. It costs £7,500. Well, that's if it was a 2023 model. We're in 2023 now. This is actually a 22 model. The 2023 model has got a colour dash, but apart from that, it's pretty much exactly the same. It's powered by a 689cc parallel twin cylinder engine. And there it is in its magnificence. And it kind of sits on top of a middleweight naked class, which is getting more and more popular with loads of great new bikes in it. So you've got this, you've got the Triumph Trident 660, you've got the soon to be released GSX 8S, and of course this, the Honda Hornet. Now this is also a parallel twin. The engine's a little bit bigger, 755cc. Honda will sting you £6,999 for this bike, which makes it really, really good value. And this promises to do everything the Yamaha can do and more. I've already ridden this bike at its world launch a few months ago, and I really enjoyed it, really liked it. There was a couple of things I wasn't so keen on, which we'll kind of come on to, we'll cover through this video. The throttle response was a little bit jerky, the handling wasn't absolutely on point, and it was a little bit cramped for me. But apart from that, it got a really good review. But what would be really interesting to see is what this bike's like away from a launch scenario and what it's like to ride in the real world. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to score each of these two bikes out of 10 in 5 different categories. But first of all, we're going to kick the scores off with the price. So as we've talked about before, the Honda is cheaper by £501. So we'll open the scores and the doors and give the Honda 9 out of 10 and the Yamaha 8 out of 10. So let's see what you get for your money, starting with the Yamaha. So the great thing about the Yamaha historically is that it's a very kind of simple, affordable motorcycles with not too many thrills, but that's never really hurt it. It's still a fantastic bike. The newer model, like I said, has got a colour dash. This has got ABS, but apart from that, it's got no other electronics, no rider modes, no traction control, none of that kind of malarkey. But to be honest, it's no worse for not having any of those electronic aids. We've never ridden this bike and think it needs traction control. It's got really good chassis, manageable engine, and on this bike as well, this got really good tyres. This has got Michelin Road 5 tyres, which are sports touring tyres, and they're really, really, really nice. It's got quite basic suspension. It's got standard brakes, no brand names or anything like that, standard rear shock. So you don't really get a lot for your money in terms of toys, but in terms of the riding experience, yes you do. Let's move on to the Honda. Kind of the electronics give this bike a wider appeal. So you've got rider modes. Within those rider modes, you've got different levels of power delivery, you know, soft to aggressive. You've got traction control, you've got engine braking control, all of those are adjustable. ABS. It's not cornering ABS, but it's just normal ABS, which works absolutely fine. You've got a colour dash. You've got Nissan calipers. Like the Yamaha, you've got pretty basic suspension. And this sits on Dunlop Road Sport 2 tyres, which aren't the best in the world, to be honest. Apart from that, the build quality of the Honda, typical Honda build quality, it's really nicely made, if a little bit plasticky. So lots of bits of plastic trim here, which the Yamaha seems to be kind of a little bit nicer thought about and put together. I mean, in terms of styling, it's not for me to say which is the best looking. Perhaps you could talk about that in the comments. Let's talk about as well what these bikes sound like. So the old Hornet, as we all know, was an inline 4, and everyone loves the sound of an inline 4, screaming inline 4, don't they? But now they're parallel twins. This is the parallel twin, that's a parallel twin. Historically, parallel twins have kind of been a little bit drony, a little bit like a Moto3 bike. But in actual fact, these bikes sound really good when they're on the throttle. So what we're going to score these bikes, so because the Honda is such great value for money, because you get more toys for your money, we've got to give the Honda 8 out of 10 and the Yamaha 6 out of 10. Well, the Honda's got a bit of a lead already. Let's talk about performance. Obviously these aren't bikes designed to go around racetracks, but equally they're designed to be user-friendly and interesting to experienced riders as well. Yamaha claims 74 bhp from the MT-07 and 49 pound-foot of torque, but we've actually measured the bikes on a dyno, BSD in Peterborough, and our dyno says that the Yamaha actually makes 70.12 bhp and 48 pound-foot of torque. The weight of this bike is 184 kilos, fully fueled and ready to go. And riding these bikes on the road, we've got some fuel figures as well. So this is 52.5 mpg, so it's got a 14 litre tank. So that would be 162 miles from full to empty. The Honda, the claimed power is 91 bhp and 55 pound-foot of torque, but our dyno says 88.9 bhp and 54.9 pound-foot of torque. You think like a 90s Supersport 600 made that kind of power, so that's pretty impressive. This does 54.6 miles per gallon. It's got a slightly bigger tank, 15.2, and so this would do 183 miles to empty. They say that claimed weight on this is 190 kilos, fully fueled, ready to go. What's really interesting is the power to weight ratio of these two bikes. So using the actual power figures on their dyno, the Yamaha makes 0.38 bhp per kilo and the Honda makes 0.47 bhp per kilo. So on paper, the Honda's definitely got a lead. But what are these bikes like on the road? Well, the MT-07, the engine is absolutely peachy. That engine is why the MT-07 has been so successful over the years. It's got such a beautiful spread of power, lots of mid-range, lots of low down power, an interesting top end, perfect fueling, and in every bike this engine has been in has been brilliant, from the Tenere to the R7 to the Tracer 700 to the XSR 700. This is one of the greatest engines of the last decade, without question. And wrapped in such a sort of a lightweight chassis, it makes this bike as fun to ride as it is easy. So that Yamaha engine is so magnificent in my eyes that it was going to take a lot of beating from the new Honda. I wasn't expecting that much of it before I rode them back to back. I've ridden the bike at the launch. To be honest, when you're riding behind a lead rider on the launch roads up and down the mountains in sort of second and third gear, I didn't really get to taste its fruits. But here in the UK, where we've actually managed to ride them properly, that engine is proper impressive. It's got similar character to the MT-07 in that it's got quite an easy wide spread of power. It's got lots of bottom end, mid-range, and an even punchier top end. It's just got more of everything. And when you jump back from the Honda onto the Yamaha, as much as it pains me to say, it makes the Yamaha feel a little bit flat and boring. So that's how these two bikes feel on the road. Be interested to see how quick they are down the drag strip, wouldn't it? So we're here at an airfield, and I think the most relevant, interesting test we can give bikes like these is to see how fast they accelerate from 0 to 100. Now, throughout this video you haven't seen these bikes move, but through the magic of television we've actually done this in more than one take, and I have warmed these bikes up, so don't panic. So the results are pretty conclusive. The Honda accelerates much faster than the Yamaha to 100 miles an hour. Did it in about 7.5 seconds, and the Yamaha was 2.5 seconds behind. Now, I've literally done a couple of runs. I'm sure I could make the bikes get closer together. The Yamaha was a little bit harder to accelerate because there was no quick shifter, so you kind of lose a little bit of time with the clutch. But I could have probably speeded that up. But the Honda I could have improved upon as well. So although that time probably I could have got a little bit closer, the Honda definitely accelerates harder, and that's kind of borne out in the power to weight figures and the overall power as well. So the Honda is faster accelerating, there's no question of that. And then we come to the braking. So this white sign behind me, I approached that 70 miles an hour, fourth gear, yammed on the brakes, and the Honda stops way before the Yamaha, round about 3 or 4 meters, which is a lot, isn't it? Again, I think I could have improved upon those braking distances, but the Honda's brakes are definitely stronger. Even though the Yamaha's tyres are a little bit grippier, the Honda feels more composed on the brakes. There was less ABS intrusion, and there was a stronger feel at the lever. That kind of runs true with what we've discovered with Yamaha brakes in the past. They're not the best. So from a performance point of view, the Honda wins this category again. 8 out of 10 we'll give for the Hornet, and 7 out of 10 for the MT-07. But I'm in the mood now for a bit of fun. So let's see how much fun these two bikes are. One of the things that makes the MT-07 so special, and all its derivatives, Tenere, etc., is the fact it's a lot of fun to ride. And I remember when we rode this bike at the launch at the end of 2013, I would say within about 50 yards of leaving the launch hotel, most journalists were wheeling down the road like the Star Boys. And ever since then, it's just the most unlikely wheelie bike. It's really good fun because it's so light and it's so punchy. And as you can see today, it is still amazingly good fun. It's no super naked, so I'm not going to score it mega high when we come to the scores, but for what it is, it's really, really enjoyable. Now, conversely, the Honda, when we rode it at its launch, was very sensible. We had a very sensible ride and we did lots of sensible things on it. But now we've got the bike to ourselves and we've turned the traction control off and we've been able to let our hair down a little bit, metaphorically speaking. It is actually more fun than the Yamaha. Turn the traction control off on that and you can clutch it up in third gear onto one wheel. It's just amazing. The bike feels very light, very engaging. There's lots of grunt. The front wheel doesn't want to stay on the ground on the first 3 gears if you have the traction control off. And I know wheelies aren't the be all and end all, and they're not big and they're not clever, but they do kind of give you an indication of how much fun a bike is generally to ride. So the scores on the fun stakes are going to be Yamaha 7 out of 10 and Honda 8 out of 10. Right, now let's talk about how these bikes handle. So the Yamaha has set a bar. We know how the Yamaha handles. It's very balanced. It's very, very easy to ride. Anybody could jump on this bike from passing their test and just get on with it really well. Or if you've been riding for years and years and you've got a lot of experience, it's still going to give you a lot of thrills and a lot of fun. The handling on the Yamaha is kind of helped by the fact it's on such good tyres. None of these two bikes are going to win Suspension of the Year competition because both of the suspensions are built down to the price. And if you push the Yamaha hard, it does get quite bouncy, but you get a lot of feel through the chassis, a lot of confidence, and around town it's really easy and agile and just a delight to use. For me, being 6 foot tall, there's enough room on the Yamaha to move around as well, which is quite important. But it's low enough that a newer rider or a shorter rider can feel quite at home when they get their feet down at the lights. The Honda hasn't got such great tyres, but you can ride the Honda pretty hard through corners. You know, it's quite well balanced, if a little fast steering. It felt really fast steering at the launch, but again, here in the UK, where the road's a little bit more flowing and you're not going up and down a mountain, the Honda feels quite nice. And it's very easy to ride. It's a Honda. You know, get around town, it's nice and agile. For me, 6 foot tall, it's a little bit small. I'm always sitting on the seat hump, so I think if you're a taller rider, the MT-07 might be a little bit better. For smaller riders, this would definitely be the one. So in terms of handling, they're pretty similar, but I think the Yamaha claws things back a little bit by the fact it's got better tyres. So what we're going to score these two bikes? Well, I think the Yamaha's clawed it back a little bit. I prefer the handling. It's a little bit more neutral, the tyres are a little bit grippier, and for me it's more spacious. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. And the Honda, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10, just because it's a little bit twitchier, the tyres could be better, and for me it's a little bit too cramped. So let's tot up the overall scores out of 50. The Yamaha gets 36 out of 50 and the Honda romps home with 40 out of 50. And it's our winner. So, you know, it's cheaper, it's better equipped, it's more fun, it's easier to ride. The Yamaha pulls it back slightly in the handling stakes and it's a little bit roomier and it's got better tyres, but it's not enough to beat the Honda. And although the Yamaha is still a great bike and it's still got a special place in my heart, the Honda has just stolen its crown, well and truly. This MCN video has been produced in partnership with Bike Shore Insurance.